Well, hello everyone, Skimmy here for another brand new video as we talk about the LCO and get ourselves all geared up for what is a new exciting season just about to start. I'm joined alongside here by Claire as we introduce one of the founding members of this new league and the split and what's going to be such a crazy time. Because I suppose, Claire, for yourself, we've got to start with the obvious question, addressing the elephant in the room, right? You look like you're going to step away from competitive. You've come back, but not only as a player once again, but as a top laner too. So I'm sure the fans and everybody at home, I'm sure you've heard it all day long. What has that been like? What is your impression, be it champion pool wise? We've seen a few players obviously make the switch between roles. What's your personal feel on things so far?
Yeah, so I guess there's a lot of things to talk about this question, but yeah, I was planning on stepping down from pro player, but it was more like it was never something that was set in stone. It was just something that I thought about. Like, I've been playing for so long, and then when Riot came with announcing that OPL was going to be done, I was like, yeah, this is probably a sign. This is a calling. Like, I probably should move on. And I was thinking about doing some other stuff, like getting a part-time job, trying to stream like consistently every day, maybe get into personal one-on-one coaching and do like YouTube VODs and stuff, like how Ellis kind of blew up and stuff. I thought that would be cool. Or like even like Midbeast, he started off like with guides and stuff, and then he became like a big streamer. So that was kind of the path I was looking at. And then the LCO got announced, and even at the start, I was still skeptical. Like, I thought it was really cool. I was like, damn, this is cool for all the other players in the scene. I'm happy for them, and I don't know if I'll play. At the start, I thought that I just straight up wasn't getting offers, but then I realized that every team was just building rosters extremely, extremely, extremely slowly. Because, like, coming into, like, what was it? It was, like, mid-January or something where I suddenly got contacted by so many teams. I'm like, oh, it's not that they didn't want me. It's that everyone is taking 10 years to build their rosters because they don't know what's going on. Yeah. So, obviously, Direwolves came to me at the time. I was still thinking about playing, and they came to me with the offer of playing top lane. And when I saw the roster, I was like, if I'm going to play, I'm going to play to win. And these guys look like the best remaining players after like the huge OC exodus. So they told me that they wanted me to play top lane. I kind of gave them a response like, I'm not great at top lane. I don't know how I'll do. Like, I'm pretty confident that if I play a lot, I'll become better, but will I become good enough? Like, I'm not sure. And that, like, I think they all gave me a lot of reinforcement, and like, they told me like they want to play with me, they respect me, and they have confidence that I can become a good top laner. So I was like, you know what, screw it. I'll play with these guys. Since they want to play with me, I want to play with them. I think they're all good players. And that was how I joined the Direwolves as a top laner. Since then, it's been quite a journey. I think, obviously, learning a new role is a huge burden to bear. And I am still working on it every day. I'm still trying to become better. Right now, I'm nowhere near where I want to be in terms of a top lane player. Because if I was to compare myself as a mid laner and a top laner, I just think it's night and day at the moment. But I can definitely see from when I first started playing, like even in solo queue and in our first scrims, that I've come a long way. And I think it'll be a very good experience and journey for me.
Do you think, following up on your point there, about the whole learning curve and sort of that development period, obviously you had such a big exodus, right, of those top laners, the likes of Tapoon, Swiper and so on, going overseas to, play the trade. You look at this one and you said before about this was probably your best chance, this core squad of 5 of really making an impact in the scene and getting that coveted title. Do you think there's almost a little bit of leeway, right, because you've got players coming in from what was the OCS and others trying to make themselves the superstar in that role? Do you think you get almost a little bit of grace as that, you may not be as punished as you would have been, say, in the past?
Yeah, I definitely think for sure. If all those other good top laners were still playing, I would just straight up say no. Like, there's no way I'm going to be able to compete with them. They have so many years under their belt. But obviously, they came to me and suggested that I play top lane because those players are gone. So it was definitely the biggest reason that both sides considered the possibility of it happening.
Well, I was going to ask the follow-up question to that one. Obviously, tough enough learning a new role, but then on top of that, you obviously a new season. Things always change season by season. This one, the biggest shake-up with the items, I'm sure it's already a bit of a head spin, right, as a mid laner thinking, hey, what's good? What mythic items do I go for? What are sort of the strongest combinations of runes and so on? Now throwing it into the mix as well as a top laner. Has there been a bit of a crossover with champion pools? I mean, we saw to the end of Split 2 on the Chiefs there, the likes of mid-Renekton, mid-Set. We've seen that obviously Tally came in as a top laner, came through to mid lane, and they sort of built an idea around him. Do you feel that there's a bit of a crossover, or is it still very much a case of, you need those core bruises, you can't really variate from that or deviate more than anything from that too far?
I think when I first started playing, I thought that because I was pretty good at playing these top laners mid, that I'd be able to play them top lane. But then I realized it's just a completely different role. Like, as a mid laner, it's so much easier to play on Set, Renekton mid, because you just use mid lane fundamentals when you play those champs. Or like the way I saw it, those champs kind of cheesed in mid lane, because when you play those bruisers in mid, you abuse like certain runes, like Doran's shield with second wind, like you just become a super sustain tank. And in the meta, it was really difficult for mage picks to compete with the sustain when you have so many mana issues. So I definitely feel like it was a lot easier to play those champs mid. And now that I switched to top, I have to relearn how to play those champs. And at the same time, they're not as meta or like unpunishable top lane. So like I do find that the champion pool is a lot different. Even though I played a lot of those champions, switching to top lane, I have to learn a bunch of new champions, as well as like the new season, like making some of them obsolete or like making others better. So I have to expand my champ pool. I have to learn a lot of new stuff. I think the items, it's not a big deal. Items, you just copy the best players in the world. You don't need to do the math or anything yourself. Just copy people.
Yeah,
items is always easy.
Dio special. Look at what sort of meadows elsewhere, right, and figure out from there. I want to touch on obviously the rosters themselves. You talked about a little bit before the sort of delay around getting those initial offers to even consider, hey, should I even look back into the window of competitive gaming? You look at a lot of these rosters that have come out. I think we're only waiting now for Mammoth with Order just releasing tonight what their core 5 will be. You look at a few of these. I mean, we'll start with Pentanet.gg for starters, really. I mean, you're looking at the core 3 between Biopanther, Predator and Pabu being retained, Rogue obviously going overseas, Decoy filling in his shoes, and then the acquisition of Chaz instead of Get Back. Do you look at them as at least early synergy-wise, a sort of a core contender, something that you'd be looking at as what are top competitors?
Yeah, so you would think that PGG, because they're keeping like the core of their roster, that they would have an edge on the rest of the teams. I think PGG were a very good team last split or last season. So coming to this season, you'd think that they're really good. I would say the sample size for us playing against them is too small right now. I do think that they will be a good team. I just think that, like the rest of the other teams, they still need to mesh together. Even if you're an established team, every season comes with new changes. The meta changes, new champions, new picks, new ways to play the game. So they're going to have to learn the game still as well. But I think they're definitely going to be a top team for sure. And I think that they do have an edge from sticking together.
I think that's the exciting point, right? Given the fact that this is going to be a very much condensed season because we are playing catch-up, right? Initial week is going to be 2 games. Following up from that, 3 games, a week, right? It's just going to be go, super week after super week. There isn't really that time like we've seen in the past. The classic Order playoff buff, right? They find their groove come week 7, week 8, look to try and transition into the best best position possible. So I suppose we look at that as an idea of, is that early synergy something relevant? I mean, we look at the likes of, say, Gravitas, looking to try and rebuild from nobody, being retained from last year. You look at Chiefs with Drag, who's still being the remainder of what was the roster you featured on. Do you look at those and say, well, yes, there may be a blank slate for a lot of these teams, but the difference, the sort of the power shifts between all these rosters, it's not big enough to say you've retained 3 members out of 5. You should be a clear favorite.
No, I sort of disagree. I think retaining your roster versus other rosters building from the start is something that's quite a big benefit for you. But I think the even bigger thing, like the biggest factor, is, are these new rosters fielding players that are actually good?
Yeah.
So say if Gravitas was to pick up 5 of the best players, then you could just say, it doesn't really matter that PGG has a core. These players are just really good, so they're going to be really good. So I can't say too much about clean slate versus what's already been played together.
Mhm.
I just think it's dependent on players that you choose on your team. And PGG already did have good players, so coming into this year, they have the bonus of already having good players plus like players that have worked together before, so they like have a double benefit from it. Whereas even if a team like Gravitas or Mammoth was to pick up 5 really good players, that they're new, so they are at a disadvantage there.
I think then your obvious second follow-up to that question then is much like Pentanet, what was Avant now known as Peace, they've retained 3 members as well, with Appy, Lisa and Violet. Violet getting the call-up. Obviously Gungrab joining ourselves at the Direwolves, but Violet now stepping into that position. Appy then switching from what was support back into where he started as a top laner. Would you look at those guys as well, known for sort of their aggressive tendencies, once again retaining that sort of core identity? Halo being switched from Legacy to find himself in a starting position. What do you sort of view their current state at as well?
Yeah, so we're just going to ask about each team. I'll just straight up say the best teams are going to be PGG, Peace, Chiefs, and ourselves. I think Peace are a good team. I think PGG are a good team. I think we're a good team. And then the last one, I think, was Chiefs. So yeah, just straight up, I'm going to say those are the 4 best teams. If you want to go into specifics, I think Peace have some of these players that are like lesser known, like Appy and Lisa. They've been playing for a while. They're usually like in the middle of the pack. Aladoric played not last year, but the year before, and he was on AV, and they were like kind of middle, upper half of it, OPL.
Mm-hmm.
And then Halo obviously came straight from OCS into being a legacy sub, and they won, but he didn't really play that many games. So most of them are relatively like unaccomplished or unknown players, but I think they're actually pretty good. I don't think you should underestimate them at all. I think they'll be a top team.
Just out the gates then, top 4, that is what it was. I mean, we're sort of avoiding, I suppose, dancing around the question more than anything, right? Sort of going through rosters that have retained key figures, first of all. But interesting to hear your thoughts on that. I want to sort of steer the conversation into, given that the LCO is a new chapter, I mean, it still is at its core fundamentals, League of Legends down in the OS region, but do you think the experience that people have had before, either playing at this kind of level, or even being involved in a scene in the likes of, say, OCS, is going to be relevant enough? Or is it going to be a case of, hey, right, LCO, brand new chance, different ideas, different structure, different time to really showcase what you can do? We've already got new faces coming in from solo queue, as opposed to what was the sort of shuffle that seemed to take place on a yearly schedule. Do you think there's going to be much of a difference here, or kind of as time's shown time and time again, if you've got the experience, you're not washed up, you've still got hands to play with, you're more than likely going to be in that top 4 feature?
I think it is a fresh slate, but at the same time, like, the experienced players should just be better like 99% of the time. I think the landscape, like, you will see a lot more of these newer players look to be at the top, but I don't think that's a result of like just new talent being given a chance. I think it's just a lot of the good players are gone now. So you will see a lot of new names this year. It's not a direct result of LCO like rebranding from OPL or whatever. It's just a lot of good players are gone. That's my opinion.
I'm going to end on this final question here. One that's going to be potentially a little bit controversial, but we know that still the end prize is, right, that there is a spot to go at MSI, Mid-Season Invitational, as well as that of Worlds. That sort of end position, that sort of holy grail, if you will, is still there up for grabs. Now, with the backing out of what was the OPL into now the LCO, we start to figure out, is this still going to be a full-time commitment or a part-time commitment? I'm sure there's going to be some people out there that, despite maybe it not being as... not being what it was once before, they're going to still be going hard in the paint at it, looking to try and really go for that gun top prize. Maybe they're not going to admit it and say, oh yeah, we work, or we study, or we do whatever. Do you think there is going to be a pretty I suppose unspoken about rule that we're all going full time, we're all going full sweat mode, but we don't want to really reveal it?
Yes, I think this is an interesting question and situation in general. Looking at the contracts this year, it's actually really similar to last year. And considering everyone went hard last year, you would think that like the scene would be really strong this season. But I think there's too many factors coming into play here that makes it like how it is. we've lost a lot of players. Obviously, COVID is affecting the world. So because of those factors, I think there's no gaming houses from what I know. It's all like remote play. Everyone's playing from home. Also, like there's no LAN. Even though there was no LAN for last year, there was supposed to be. And yeah, a lot of people are seeming like they want to not go as hard this year because they have more freedom. You're not being forced to go into a gaming house, which means like people aren't going to force you to scrim as much. Since you're not committing like that, they don't want to control your lives and stuff, so you can do the stuff that you want to do. But I think at the end of the day, the top teams are going to take it super seriously. They're going to play every day, practice every day. Contracts are the same, so like theoretically, the amount that you try shouldn't really change from last year if you really want to win it all. If you want to go to MSI and go to Worlds, so it's a combination of both things. Some people will take it really serious, some people will go really hard, and then some teams will just like take a step back and not full commit this year. So yeah, it's a very interesting situation. I think there's so many things that came into play that caused it.
Ignore the whispers of Reddit, basically, where they say, why have they got rid of the OPL? Why is this coming to its place? What does this all mean? And hang on a minute, isn't OS all just part of the LCS? Which we're not. We're not. But maybe some people are. Some people are, and they are showcasing what they can do. Well, Claire, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much, obviously, for joining us. I wish you guys the best of luck when you debut next week for the start of the LCO. And no doubt everybody at home will be tuning in when it starts.